welcome to Juicy Scoop YouTube. You guys, you know I so appreciate you watching this show. Of course, I know you're going to subscribe and share and like and press that notification ring button. But also, I really would love when you write a comment to say, this was my favorite part, and give us the timestamp. All the other people that are reading the comments, they find that helpful. I love it. Also, today's topic gets into detail and very juicy, thorough details that you will not have heard anywhere else of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni rivalry and lawsuits that are happening. And I really want to know your opinion, what you think as we go through how they could be interpreted. Whose side are you on? Let's hear it and share with your friends. We have a great show for you today, but I want to make sure that you have gone to heathermcdonald.net and bought tickets to my February shows. You guys, I'm so excited. This is Galentine weekend. It is also a 3-day holiday. February 14th, I'll be at the Palladium in Times Square in New York City. This show is going to have my fabulous stand-up, which is new and funny and great stories, along with hilarious special guests that I will reveal as we get closer. But I'm so excited how funny it's going to be. You're going to love it. It's going to be Bravo-centric, but also you don't need to be a Bravo person to enjoy the hilarious show. It's going to be hilarious, so bring your anyone who likes to laugh will love the show. Then on February 15th, Saturday, I jump over to DC at the Lincoln Theater to do another fabulous show for you. And then on Sunday, February 16th, I'm in Red Bank, New Jersey. So get those tickets all at heathermcdonald.net. And now for a very juicy episode. This episode of Juicy Scoop is sponsored by Ro. So you're ready to lose an average of 15% of your weight faster? Meet the latest offering through Ro. Go to ro.co/juicyscoop to see if you qualify. That's ro.co/juicyscoop. Go to ro.co/safety for boxed warnings and full safety information about GLP-1's medication. 15% weight loss is based on a study in non-diabetics with obesity or with overweight with a weight-related condition on 5 milligrams of medication when paired with diet and exercise. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Happy New Year. It's 2025. Thank you for your patience because I didn't have some shows over Christmas, but guess what? We are back with a super juicy one. Welcome, Coco Mocoe, to Juicy Scoop for the first time. This adorable cutie, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I've discovered you on TikTok, which may no longer be here, but you have a presence on a lot of the other platforms as well. And you are a trend predictor, brand marketer, and you do really great videos. And so we have so much to discuss. We're going to get in all to the latest of the Blake Lively and Justin and Baldoni and all of it, with so much more that's happened. But a little background on you. You were telling me you were a journalism major at San Diego State.
Yeah, I was studying journalism. I wanted to be a journalist so bad. And then I have dyslexia and I couldn't pass this one spelling grammar test. And I got actually kicked out. But then instead of dropping out of the school, someone was one of the counselors why don't you go into marketing? And then it was what I was meant to do. So then.
Oh, that's great.
It worked out. I like that I do marketing now.
Yeah, we were just saying, because I went to USC and I can admit it was not as difficult to get into there as it now is for these young kids. And I was asking you about San Diego State because it's become so popular. And when I was applying, it was kids that barely were graduating from high school would go to San Diego State. But what I think happened was, I think all of a sudden people around the country and the world were like, why am I not going to this school? San Diego is, I think, one of the most perfect cities in California.
Yeah.
More perfect than LA County, in my opinion. And I'm like, yeah. So finally people realized it and everyone started to apply there. And now it's very hard to get into.
I know. I think what made it also hard to get into in a weird way was there was this huge drug bust at one of the fraternities in the 2010s.
Oh.
And I almost think it elevated its cool party status. And I think that's part of what happened.
That's
genuinely.
Wait, you know how I chose to go to USC?
Because of parties.
No, because I read the book Less Than Zero. Do you know the book Less Than Zero, the movie? Oh my God, it was this book and I read it and I was like, what? I mean, I'd heard of USC, football, whatever. And it was about these rich kids going to private school in the Valley. And so I knew all the schools they were talking about and then the crazy shit that they were doing. And then they all went to USC. And I was like, this school sounds like a fucking good time.
Yes.
That's why. And that's what it. I got fixated on it. I was like, that's so interesting that something can kind of change the trajectory of like, history of like getting into school, whatever it might be. But well, I'm glad you're here. So the Golden Globes were last night. And Demi Moore has been looking so gorgeous. She's she's like 61. She's had like, she's always had a beautiful body. But back when she was doing these movies and she was super into working out, and when she was in this movie called The Stripper, which was like, that was the most money a female lead had ever been paid, was for this movie called The Stripper, and it was horrible. It was super dumb. But she was super into like working out. Since then, her body's become very like Pilates lean. She had an unfortunate facelift a couple years ago that she went back and got fixed. And she looks stunning. And she won Best Actress last night for, how do you pronounce the name of that movie?
The Substance.
The Substance.
Yeah.
The Substance. Did you see it?
I did. I actually really loved it. It was so good. It's all about plastic surgery. And,
yes. Which of course I love. It's one of my interests.
Same.
We watched it over the holiday with my college-age sons and my husband. And I loved it. Didn't love the ending.
Yeah.
I thought the ending could have been way more clever, and I don't want to ruin it for you guys. I'm just saying it's still worth it to watch. It's still super intriguing, and it was going in such a great direction, and I just didn't know why it had to go to like such a weird, gory ending, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it was so like avant-garde, even the way that camera angles were like she was a petri dish and like the sounds. Yeah. I almost think they were like, well, you've stuck with us this long, like let's just go crazy at the end almost. Like it kind of fit the odd vibe, but I do think there's an interesting like Twilight Zone concept there where I'd love if it was like an HBO show.
Yes, I always refer to Twilight Zone because I used to watch all the old ones, and there's even every single one is a movie, and most of them have been, I think, the inspiration for other movies to come because they were so incredibly like groundbreaking and clever. I could talk about Twilight Zone forever, but it is very Twilight Zone, Black Mirror-ish. And but I thought it was interesting because I'm like, she really wasn't in it, in my opinion, as much as her other self, which is this younger girl that's sort of playing her as well. Yeah. So,
or you don't even like recognize her near the end, and it's. Yeah, you're right. Margaret Qualley really kind of held a lot of the midsection, I feel, of the movie down.
But I definitely see that one. So that was cool. She won, and she said, I've been doing this forever, and I've never won an award. And there was a viral video that went with all of her daughters, and I think one of the daughters is a mom now, at home in their sweats cheering that she won. So that was really cool. I've loved her acting always. I loved her in Ghost and all the movies that she did, The St. Elmo's Fire. She is a great actress. She looks amazing and very natural, and she was greatness. So that was really, and her gown, all of her clothes is amazing. And Brad Gorgetsky is her stylist, and he used to be on like Rachel Zoe's Bravo show, and he's always like a person that talks about fashion. He's amazing. So that was really cool that she won. Overall, I thought Nikki Glazer did great.
She was so
perfect.
Good.
Absolutely perfect. And she also has a perfect body for gowns.
Yeah, she does. And, I was just saying, I can never say I'm too busy because I just randomly DM'd her and was like, good luck tonight. Like, not thinking. And she like replied and was like, thanks so much. Like, can't wait. And I'm like, the day of like the Golden Globes, there's no way like I can ever say I can't get to an email. But I think like her groundedness is what makes her really cool.
I think, she's been in the business a long time. She was always a good stand-up, but she's had, several little like E-type talk shows. She had a reality show that like featured her parents and her silliness. She was on Dancing with Stars briefly because it didn't go. And now I think with the roast and with this is what she should be doing. This is the perfect kind of comedy for her. She's the perfect host and very likable with being edgy but not mean.
Right.
Didn't make people uncomfortable, like tied the line. A couple of people I know that were writers on it, Ian Carmel, who I used to work with, she had great writers. She took a photo with the writers. Like it was a perfect thing. So she did great. So that was great. And I think she's a perfect person for it. Angelina Jolie attended with one of her daughters, Zahara. And of course, they both like looked gorgeous. But there's a lot going on with Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
So their divorce is final. He has a great facelift going.
He does.
And he has a 9-year-old girlfriend, which is fine. He's like 61. But what do you think about their whole situation? They're still, I think they're still fighting over the Miraval Rosé Chateau Winery. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. They're like fascinating to me. They're one of the last kind of like A-list, like modern day Hollywood stars in that they don't really talk about their personal lives, yet it's still out there so much. Like the stars that are maybe more Gen Z or younger millennial, they're kind of like an open book in some ways. And like they're very private, yet we know everything about them. I think it's fascinating.
You're actually, that's so true.
They're not going to do a
podcast.
Course, like they're just like.
Yeah, that's so true because they were married. He was married, obviously, to Jennifer Aniston. Mm-hmm. And then he started to work on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And Jennifer, this is the stories I remember, reached out to Angelina and was like, oh my God, he's so excited to work on this movie with you. I'm so happy, da da da. And then I remember a facialist that worked for Courtney Cox.
Oh my God.
Told me that she asked her. Now this is, hearsay, whatever. I'm telling you a story. But this is what I remember. And she's like, what do you think of Angelina Jolie? And she said, Predator. And that back in the day, like she would be calling the house when people had house phones. She would be calling the house. And of course they fell in love. And that's like when Jennifer Aniston said, I think he has a sensitivity chip missing and
lacking empathy is kind of the vibe?
Like just didn't really like get it. And then so then they go on though, and they have, I remember right when it was going on, they did a photo shoot when they weren't even completely out as a couple for W Magazine, where they posed as a 1960s couple in Palm Springs with 5 little kids running around. While he was still with Jennifer Aniston and they had no children together.
Oh my God.
And there were rumors about it. And then they get together. They have 3 of their own biological children. They have the adopted children. And you're right. We never heard that they had any issues. They'd go on the red carpet and make funny things. Oh, what did you do this morning? I made the kids breakfast. What'd you make them? Cereal. Oh my God, they're so down to earth. We never heard until we heard about that fight that happened on the private plane, which appeared to happen between Brad Pitt and Pax. Or not Pax, Maddox maybe. And that was for her it. And then it's been going on for years, and a lot of the kids have dropped Pitt from the last name and really sided with their mother. And so, yeah, that is all. You're right. We don't know everything about them. Just like,
Yeah. It's like we know so much like through the press, like they're like the old school celebrities. Like, I don't know if they're the ones telling the press, like we see them, their stories, but it's like, they're never going to like sit down on Joe Rogan and like talk for 3 hours about what happened on the plane. Like we know, but we don't. It's so interesting. But yeah, I mean, Brad Pitt must have a really good PR team though, because like, I feel like he still kind of has this like, lovable image, and I don't follow him enough to know like really if it's true or not, but
right, and he is sober. Okay, so it is good because that story was alcohol was a part of it. Whatever, we don't really know.
Yeah.
He denied that it ever got more than just arguing, but she said otherwise, from what I recall. But this was a weird story that has come out. Okay, this came out a while ago, a couple years ago, and I just thought it was sort of strange. It's from yourtango.com, but Brad Pitt's dating history from the 1990s is being discussed again, and some people are questioning why he dated girls much younger than himself. Back then, he was linked to 2 teenage girls he met while acting. So the first, he dated Juliette Lewis, the actress. And she was 17 and he was 27 when they did the movie Too Young to Die. And they were together for 3 years and both spoke positively about their relationship. Now, this was, 30 years ago, because he's in his 60s now. But today, that would be really weird if a 17-year-old was working with a 27-year-old and they became a couple.
Right. Yeah.
And then the second case involved this girl, Shailene McCall, and she was his co-star in the TV show Dallas. And at the time, she was 15 and Pitt was 24. However, her mother denied it, saying they only worked together on the show. But there was some rumblings about this in the last couple of years, and I just thought it was sort of
I wonder
interesting.
Why do you think it's come back up? Like, because of the divorce and people are looking into it, maybe?
I just think the more that there's like sexual assault and inappropriate aged things with girls and boys that are under 18 in all the different scenarios, gay, straight, men, women. I think that when people see that, they're like, oh my God, like Elvis dating Priscilla Presley or, that this, and as short as back as 20, 30 years ago, that was a big age difference. 17 and 27 is really big, you know? And, but they said it was great. It was fine. Like Dakota, who's the girl in, who was the girl in the 50 Shades of Grey? Who's that actress?
Dakota Johnson?
Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
Her parents, Don Johnson from Miami Vice and Melanie Griffin, if my memory is serving me right, they were dating when she was like 14 and he was 20.
Okay. And it's so funny because I think also now with the internet, like age fact checking is so much easier.
Yeah.
Like something so crazy is I actually loved working here. It was my favorite job. I used to work at this place called Famous Birthdays, and it's like this like hot pink website for 12-year-olds. But we would interview a lot of TikTok stars. But it was actually so funny the amount of people that would reach out asking us to change the age of certain female celebrities if people were connecting the dots that like something happened when they were underage.
Wait, who would ask you? Like the representation people?
Usually the team of the male celebrity that was trying to clean it up that they dated like a female celebrity when she was younger because fans would connect it. We never would. Like we were
wouldn't.
No, they would. They were like, no, like, I'm like, okay, like Famous Birthdays journalism.
Would they call you, email you? How would you get this request?
They would email. And like they always.
And how would they write an email like that?
Right. So what's so fascinating and what they would teach us there, and again, like I just loved working there, like I sing their praises, but what they would teach us is that if someone reached out, and sometimes they would get the birthday wrong at Famous Birthdays, like they would just look at your Instagram when you posted a 21st thing, whatever. Sometimes they would get it wrong. If we really got a birthday wrong, usually someone or from their team would reach out and they would say, hey, my birthday's wrong. And like that was usually the wording. But if someone wanted to change a birthday, like either they wanted to look younger or they had to look older for some, or it was the male celebrities team asking for their girlfriend's profile, they would almost always say, can you change this person's birthday? Not, hey, it's wrong. They would say, hey, can you change the date? And they're like, why would we like usually they would kind of give it away in the wording.
And then you would just say, no, we can't, or you just ignore it?
Yeah, I wasn't on that side of the team, but they would never change it. They're like, if they sent us their driver's license and like they
you
could
were
prove
proven that you were wrong, yeah.
But they're like, why would we change it? I'm like, wow, like Nobel Peace Prize, like journalism integrity. But no, it was just, it's, you would never think, but like that website, like, is like so many people are freaked out about ages being out there.
That is so interesting. So you saw Wicked. This is a friend of mine, Fat Carrie Bradshaw. He is so funny. You know him, right?
No, I'll have to.
He just dive in. This is just a video of him going through Wicked, and he's just acting like a super fan of Wicked.
Okay.
What did you think of the movie Wicked? And you can be. This is a safe place. I just want you to know.
Yeah, and I'm okay with like people having differing opinions from me. I kind of like understood what Nikki Glazer said when she's like, I only just learned about it because like I had friends in high school. Like I got like roasted online because I thought the name was pronounced Elphaba, but it's like Elphaba. Like I put the emphasis on the wrong letter. And then I went and saw it. Like I thought it was good, but I think I just
Did you go to an actual movie theater?
Yes. And
did it feel as long as it did as I was watching it in my bed?
Yes, I was definitely like checking the time every now and then. Like, okay, how much longer? And I think that I'm just coming to terms, like, I'm just not a musical person and that's okay. Like, I just don't love being taken out of the reality of like, I love like Bravo because it's like, to me, it's real. Like, but like musicals, it's so not real to me that someone would just start like tap dancing in a combo.
I grew up doing musicals and I liked it if I had a part in it,
Mhm.
I don't really like sitting and watching. Whenever I would go, I'd look at the thing and I'd be like, oh my God, how many more till the intermissions? And then always the second act is shorter. There aren't
Okay.
as many scenes. So that's always
Yeah.
the thing. And I had never gone, but of course I wanted to see it. So we paid the $20 when we were available to see it on New Year's Day. And I talk about it in my Patreon at the end. I came up with what I thought was a better idea for the prequel, which was, you can listen to that. But I wanted to make it like, I think it would have been more interesting if they were actual sisters.
Oh,
Step
yeah.
or real or whatever. If they just were actual sisters growing up and they and Elf, what's her name? I just called her Elsa in the Patreon. If Alphaba was the older sister, and I came up with a whole fun scenario that if they were sisters and she was the older sister and the Ariana Grande didn't really have the talent and she had the magic talent, and then the Ariana Grande acted out and got in trouble and she protected her, but then she turned green because she protected her sister. And then the parents were like, goodbye. And then they focused on Ariana Grande because she was pretty and young and could be like a pageant girl that could sing. And that's when they started to hate each other. But then people said, but Heather, your prequel idea is cool. But if you see part 2, you're going to see that the original idea they had actually works out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what part 2 is going to be.
I mean, someone basically told me what part 2 is because if you've seen the musical, you know what happens.
Okay.
But I love how many people made fun of the two of them in the weird interviews.
Holding the finger.
And just, so. And I do think both of them got they were already skinny in the movie, but shockingly how skinny they are both now, like scary skinny. And I don't know why they are. If you're going to write me and say they both have diseases, I don't know. I'm just saying, in my opinion, they are unusually thin and much thinner than they were even when they shot the film.
Right, because in the film, like they didn't look and I think they are both beautiful,
20 years older than they did in the film.
Right, yeah, in the film, and I guess maybe it's because they filmed it maybe 2 years ago. I'm honestly not sure.
I know. I think it's the weight loss.
You know what?
It's like,
you know what I did that I always joke that I want to have a pop culture museum of like defunct items. You know how they put out the Wicked dolls and they had the adult website?
Yes.
The moment they announced
because it was if you guys don't recall, they put the Wicked has been an adult website, one of the top ones, Wicked Films, 90s porn, Valley, like just go get a VHS tape and you'd see that girl and you'd be like, you're my favorite porn star at Starbucks at the corner of Ventura and, Van Nuys. Like that is Wicked. They had, when you'd be going towards Universal, Wicked Films and Vivid Films and all this other stuff. So yeah, that's crazy that some idiot messed up on that. But what were you saying about the dolls?
The moment they announced it, I was like, there's like a 3-hour window I have to go buy these dolls before they pull them off, before like the Target associates see the email.
Yeah.
And I ran to Target. I found there was one of the Fiero guy and it had Wicked on it.
Is that the hot guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went to pay for it and the Target thing was like, you cannot sell this item, like do not sell. So they're like, I'm sorry, we can't sell it. I ran to a Kohl's and they were like, yeah, we'll sell it to you. And I got it from Kohl's. And they just tried to put like a sticker over the thing and I just ripped it off. So in like 80 years, if I have a pop culture museum, that's going to be like in a glass case.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, maybe with like the Wicked website like over the top of it.
Yeah.
Might be great, but I just thought that was like a funny thing that happened.
So that was fun to see them there.
Yeah.
We are all looking for a fresh start this time of year, from eating better to losing weight. And we have some habits that we want to stop, maybe good ones to start. Well, it's time to give your finances a huge fresh start. Make this the year you start to get out of debt and stop being crushed by it. And the first step is to contact PDS Debt for personalized debt solution. If you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit accepted. Save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. Make sure this year you take control of your debt. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/juicyscoop. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/juicyscoop. pdsdebt.com/juicyscoop. Everyone has New Year's resolutions, and the hardest part is keeping them. Well, one of the most popular ones is saving money. Clearly, a lot of Americans want to do that. And we sometimes just feel like the money is slipping through our fingers, but it's not your fault. The whole world is trying to spend your money. And there's streaming apps and delivery fees and tips on self-checkout machines. And the list goes on and on. Good thing there's Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing so your money has a chance to grow for you, your kids, and your retirement. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can start with $5 or even just your spare change. You don't need a ton of time. You can create your Acorns account and start investing in just 5 minutes. Basically, Acorns does the hard part so you can give your money a chance to grow. Head to acorns.com/juicyscoop or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today.
Paid non-client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/juicyscoop.
We all want to sleep better this year, and maybe you've tried. Maybe you've put the phone away. Maybe you've kicked the pets out of your bed. But the way to do it is to get Boll and Branch luxurious 100% cotton sheets. You guys, you will fall asleep faster. There is nothing like this buttery, breathable comfort. I absolutely love it. And you will discover the difference with Boll and Branch 30-night guarantee. This is so important. We spend time in our bed. It's the best time of the day. It's a third of your life. So get these sheets and change your life. You deserve it. This one-time upgrade brings years of better sleep wrapped in the most luxurious feeling imaginable. So no matter what kind of day you've had, you get to go to instant relaxation. And they even get softer with every wash, which is amazing and I can attest to. These are the softest sheets I've ever felt, and I just cannot wait to get in my bed every day. Now's your chance to change the way you sleep with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com/juicyscoop. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/juicyscoop to save 15%. Exclusions apply. See site for details. Timothée Chalamet, this Bob Dylan movie sounds really good. A lot of people questioned in the last couple of years if he and Kylie Jenner were a real couple. Mm-hmm. I think I was always on the right side of history in that they are. Yeah. And it really appears that they are. Mm-hmm. And that's it. I just think they are. I just think she, being that she's grown up in the limelight for her whole life. Mm-hmm. I think she was like 8 when the show started. And she did keep her first pregnancy private with Stormy. And so, yeah, I think they mutually keep this private. It's not part of Keeping Up with Kardashians. And I think that's why we thought it wasn't real, because everything in the Kardashians is so overexposed. And Kim is that way, mm-hmm. but they're 15 years apart. And they both came into media at 2 very different times in their life. Kim was 25 when she became famous and she was 8, mm-hmm. So it's like, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they are so private is, and I think also like she always dated music artists. Mm-hmm. I think actors have to be private. Well, now he is a music artist. He's saying right now, but I think actors more than anyone have to be private because like you have to be able to see them in the character. And I almost think that's why like it seems Wicked was a little worried with Ariana's backlash with like the Ethan stuff because it almost
she fell in love with the character.
He was like a side character.
I thought he was like the main one. Anyway, he was already married to a woman mm-hmm. who was expecting their baby when they broke up, and he started to, or whatever. I'm sure it was an overlap, but now he's with Ariana.
Right, and I almost think that like actors don't want their personal life out there that much because like they can't get roles if people are like imposing their actual life on. So I think that's also probably why it seems real because they are very private. He probably doesn't want to be in the Kardashians because then you can't see him as Bob Dylan.
And I don't know who else was at Kylie's table, but there was a video that's going around on like the Daily Mail or something. And Demi Moore, after her win, was saying hi to the 2 other girls that she clearly knows from, I don't know who they were.
Elle Fanning and then a girl who played like a side girlfriend in the Bob Dylan movie that was.
Okay, so she knows them. Yeah. And they're like, look at her snub Kylie Jenner. And I'm like, I wrote on the comments, I'm like, can we not? Like she's in the most exciting moment of her career. She's seeing people she knows. She's got to say hi to a million people. She's on and now we're going to judge Demi Moore for a moment that someone's going to say she was rude.
Yeah.
Like enough.
Right.
Kylie doesn't know her and she wasn't being rude, but she was focusing on these girls and then she was immediately pulled away. So it's like, just relax, people.
Right. And I think like in a lot of these clips of Kylie at these events, I think people are like overly mean to Kylie because at least from what I can see, I don't know. I kind of get the vibe she's a little awkward because like if you think about it, she's kind of like a homeschooled, like she didn't really have like I think in these moments, people think of her as this like really cool, like popular girl. I think it really in those candid moments comes out like she is kind of probably hard like navigating, especially this room that she doesn't know.
Yeah, and she's trying to, and she is the girlfriend. She wants to be the girlfriend. She is the girlfriend. It's his world. And she probably actually loves being the plus one.
Yeah.
And so, I really like them together.
Yeah.
Sofia Vergara shouted out to Jodie Foster from her seat. And she got the award, Jodie did, and Sophia in her funny Colombian accent said, like, I won one. And it was that she didn't win for, what is the movie that she was up for? Griselda, which I loved that series.
Okay.
Oh my God, she was a coke dealing mom, drug lord, real life story that a lot of Latina actresses over the years have played in different versions. Some were movies, some were little things. So I looked it up. I was like, oh my God, she was so good in this. I wonder why nobody else. And I looked and I'm like, no, people all. But I loved this series if you haven't seen it. And she was great. And I did say on the show that I knew she'd be nominated, but I really thought she'd win. But she didn't. Okay, now let's get into this. This was very interesting. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, stuff that's been going on. And this was interesting because this guy, what is his name, that won this award for directing?
I know he was directing The Brutalist, but I don't remember his.
So he got up there and he made this speech, which is going viral everywhere. It sounded like it was very directed towards Blake Lively. So just to get people up to date, Blake Lively, star of It Ends With Us, which I did see just about 2 weeks ago before the news of these lawsuits broke out. Oh my God,
you saw it like on the eve.
Yes. She came out with her lawsuit against Justin and his PR people 2 days before Christmas that, accused if you want to summarize all the things that she accused him of. Let's get into that. Let's just start there. But first I will just say one of the things, just to finish this part, why the photo of this guy. One of the things was that though she was the lead and she was the producer, Justin Baldoni, who she is in a legal lawsuit with back and forth, he's now suing
New York
Times for writing about her complaint and lawsuit. He was the director. So in it, there was this whole thing about what cut they were going to do. And she, as an actress, wanted to be in the editing room and have her own notes and have her own version of it. Which version did they use? Did they use hers or his?
Yeah, they used hers.
So they used hers. So the movie I saw was her cut. And when we found out that there was her cut and his cut, many people said, oh, I would have liked to seen his. So this guy gets his award and he goes on for like a solid minute plus saying, we are filmmakers, meaning the director. And, a lot of people would have maybe said this movie, which was like 3 hours long about some fashion person or something, this is too long of a movie, too long. No one wants to see. But as the filmmaker, we should have final cut. We should have final cut. Like you said, it's so clear. And I felt that we all pretty obviously that was directed as like, we don't need an actress coming in and doing her cut of it, which, that kind of makes sense because a director, but then in the Justin Baldoni thing, he was the director and the star of it. So like if the argument was going to be like, we need to have someone else's eyes so that if it was, I remember when Barbara Streisand was like a director of a movie she was in, there were articles about how like, oh, they'd linger. She has really beautiful hands, Barbara Streisand. They linger on her hands and her long nails. Because, if you're having final cut, as a man or a woman, you are going to, like I had final cut of my stand-up special and I was like, not that angle. Like I literally told the guy, I'm like, as many cuts, every single cut of the joke, I really don't want from this side of my face.
Yeah.
But it's my material, it's my stand-up, so whatever. But if it's a story that someone's telling, and as an actress, you've just got to I can see why it will affect the film if someone gets in there that wasn't the director, and then also they're maybe thinking about their own looks or whatever. So that was interesting. But now why don't you first go through what you have of what Blake Lively's complaint and lawsuit is?
Yeah, this was like my hyperfixation over the break. And I was telling my audience, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a journalist, I'm just nosy. So like take everything with a grain of salt and do your own research. But so when her lawsuit came out, the reason I was fascinated is because I've worked in like the marketing end of things for so long, on corporate and with public figures. And like I've never seen what she was alleging, the dirty PR tactics, which I'll get into, but the basis was that she's saying that she felt like it was an unsafe work environment and there was just boundaries that kept getting crossed. So like there were sexual harassment things that she's claiming was going on. But like for me, the weirdest thing was that she's claiming he said he could like talk to her recently dead dad and like had messages for her. And like to me, like that does show a little bit of an odd mental state going on maybe. And then he was—
Let's quickly just go through what some of the sexual harassment stuff that she said.
So some of the other sexual harassment stuff was that it seems like the main one was there was this birth scene, and when they were filming it, it wasn't a closed set. And so there was a lot of people moving about, such as one of the financiers that wasn't supposed to be on set that day. She was not given the undergarments to like cover up accordingly
there as she's acting like she's pushing out a baby. Yeah.
Yes, they just gave her a little piece of fabric to cover up, and then they had like she thought there would be a local actor that was going to play the OBGYN, and then she found out that it was Justin Baldoni's best friend that like just wanted to be there. And then
so she felt like you just gave him a little part.
Yeah, like it was just, I think she, and again, like I'll be honest, I think I'm biased right now towards Blake Lively's side, and so that's going to come out in the way I describe it. But like,
well, just describe it. It's fine.
Yeah, and so like, and like
because it's like we're going back and forth, and there's a lot of stuff, and that's why I'm excited to talk to you about it. Okay, go on.
And so, but what really seemed to set this day over the edge was the co-producer who's also named in the lawsuit, Jamie Heath. He's like Baldoni's best friend. They have a feminist podcast together. But like
so they both present themselves as male feminists.
Yeah, and it's just to me that's already a little odd. I'll get into why.
My friend Kate Casey, friend of the show, and also has a great podcast. She said, I think he's definitely doing a long grift as a feminist. I just thought that was such a funny expression. Go on.
I'll get into that because the lawyer he hired doesn't align with his feminist values. But so the guy, Jamie Heath, pulls up a video kind of unprovoked and is showing Blake Lively a home birth of like his wife just like naked in a bathtub.
So
like
not Justin Baldoni's wife?
No, it's Jamie Heath and his wife.
Oh, I see. I thought it was Justin's wife.
People are mixing up. So what people are confusing is that, because I read through the whole thing, so like a lot of it is Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath were both doing things, but people are getting them crossed and mixed.
Because there's just so much info. Go on.
And Jamie Heath isn't as public of a figure. And then so a few other things were like he was adding in sex scenes that weren't in the book and or in the script originally. And then he would ask Blake Lively, like, what kind of porn do you watch? Like, I watch porn. I'm addicted to it. And then she felt uncomfortable and said, well, I've never seen it, just to stop the convo. And then he announced to the whole crew, well, Blake Lively's never seen porn. Like, and she was like humiliated. And then he would talk about how in a scene that he's filming with Blake Lively, him and his wife always climax together. So he wants him and Blake to like climax together in the scene because that's how him and his wife do it. And
that was one of those gratuitous sex scenes that she said, I don't want to have. And she actually did like an amendment to her contract, like, I don't want these extra orgasm scenes, correct?
Right. And yeah. And so what seems to have really set this off was there was already this uncomfortableness brewing on set. Like, she was saying that he would kiss her and linger more than he had to in scenes. And then as the director, he was having them shoot the scene over and over. So she's like, okay, how many times do we have to kiss? So then you have the writer's strike. And then as they're coming back from the writer's strike, her team then sends over a doc that was like, hey, like, if Blake Lively's going to return to set, here's some just things that we want to change and we want you guys to acknowledge. And the co-producer, Jamie Heath, signed off on this doc. And there's a DocuSign receipt of like when he opened the email and everything and signed off. And so then, and this was all, what's crazy to me is like, this was all dealt with privately. So she thought like, and it sounds like when they returned to set, things were fine. Like it sounds like Ryan Reynolds was on set to also just keep an eye on things. She was not planning to go public with the sexual misconduct allegations. And what ended up happening from her allegations is that he then has a PR firm he's working with. And he's getting nervous that Blake Lively's team is going to start leaking to the press what was going on. And so he then hires a third-party PR firm called TAG. And this team was also associated with Johnny Depp. They've been associated
with the Amber Heard trial.
Amber Heard trial. They followed Jason Sudeikis. We know there was a lot of salacious articles that came out about Olivia Wilde a few years ago.
Right, when she was breaking up with him to have her relationship with Harry Styles during that movie called Don't Worry, Darling.
Right.
Yes.
And so this is a team that, and this is really where things kick off because this is the weeks leading up to the movie coming out. Blake Lively doesn't seem to be going public about any of this. And what set Justin Baldoni off is that, and they have the text message threads, is that he realized that Ryan Reynolds unfollowed him on Instagram or blocked him. He couldn't access his account. And so he wasn't sure if he was going to hire the third party PR team, but that was like his moment to be like, oh my God, we need all hands on deck. Let's get this other team pulled in.
Because he anticipated that they were
going to come forward.
Okay.
And so what we see from the text, and again, this is where I'm fascinated is the marketing side. And again, I'll allege it, but what we're seeing in the text is this team was like, they were saying that they can't say on record what they're going to do because they'll get in trouble. And if this ends up in the wrong hands and then there's.
And these were all text messages that because she was filing a lawsuit was able to depose these text messages, and that's what her attorneys used to build a case of the smear campaign.
Well, and I don't think that they would have ever even known how to, like, that the text even existed. But what ended up happening, and there's another lawsuit that has been filed from a PR firm against one of the girls on Justin's team, where she, unrelated to It Ends With Us, got fired from the PR firm because an IT person caught her downloading company docs, but changing the logo from their logo to what her new company's logo was going to be, and that flagged in the system. So they brought her in and fired her.
So she was being fired for stealing clients or presenting herself as a bigger deal than she was. Okay,
right.
Got it.
And launching a competing firm and downloading their docs. Mm-hmm. And so she was brought in. It was like I think it was August 21st, and they fired her on the spot, and she had to turn over her devices. And it was on those devices that then they read all of these messages that were pretty damning for Justin and his team. And what scares me the most is they were working with this outside guy. He has no digital footprint. New York Times said that they couldn't find any information on him other than he lives in Austin, and he had a LinkedIn profile. He described himself as a hired gun, but when they reached out for a comment, he deleted his profile. You can't find anything. His name, all they know is his name is Jed, and he lives in Austin. He, in the text messages, he's never directly in any of the group chats, but one of the girls, they're sending her links to TikToks, and she's saying, okay, we're sending them to Jed. He's able to, and she even said, we won't use bots for this because that will be too suspicious, but he is able to either push a thing in the feed on the TikTok feed, or what scares me the most, it's easy to push something, you get a bunch of people to like it. He was able to pull videos off the For You page. So if they saw a video that was starting to be critical of Justin Baldoni, and there were other HR complaints from other people, that were circulating about him, not Blake Lively related, that they didn't want to come out. So there was a girl who made a video about it, and in the text thread, they send the link to this video and they go, Jed is handling it. He's pulled it off the feed. So he pulls these videos off the For You page. I don't know if he works at TikTok. That to me is like, that's like the eighth wonder of the world that I like want to know before I die. I'm like, how was he able to manipulate the algorithm? And then the last damning thing that I'll say,
and that's where the bots thing comes through, right?
Right.
That through this weird Austin dude, was he running a bot farm in Texas where you started, and they talk about the Reddits and all of this, where it's like, oh my God, it's going crazy. Everybody's talking about what a bitch Blake Lively is. Yeah. And maybe not everybody was.
Right.
Maybe, with the bots and the anonymous things of, that you do on Reddit, whatnot, they're going back and forth with each other, but it's all not real.
It's not, and then it becomes real because these creators, and I've been victim to it, where if you make your money on the TikTok For You page or, the podcast, whatever, it's like, oh, well, the people that are bashing Blake Lively, those are what's going viral. I need to make $1,000, from a video this week to pay rent. Let me just post a TikTok bashing her because.
With a title like Blake Lively is a bitch. Or I waited on Blake Lively and she didn't tip or whatever. And even if you have nothing, and you're like, okay, it was my cousin's friend, enough people will watch it to the 1 minute mark.
And you're monetarily incentivized now. And then the last thing I'll add that was really damning to me that again, working on the backside, I would love for them to answer for, they might have to now that they're going to trial, is that Melissa Nathan, the girl that works at Tag PR, which their financial backer is Scooter Braun. I think that's interesting. But, her, and it's in the emails and the text messages that they're talking to her sister, Sarah Nathan, who's an editor at Page 6 New York Post. And so Sarah Nathan is publishing articles about Blake Lively, and nowhere in this article is she disclosing her family tie to the woman who was hired to run an alleged smear campaign against Blake Lively. And there's emails between the teams that Sarah's getting ready to publish these articles, and there's a conflict of interest there. And I went in and looked at every Sarah Nathan article in the past few months. She's written some about Olivia Wilde. Tag PR only follows 25 people. One of them is Jason Sudeikis. Tag PR was at the Ted Lasso season 3 premiere. And I'm like, so should Sarah Nathan be disclosing that her sister is the crisis comms person? And it's just fascinating. Now I look at all of these articles and I'm like, is the journalist at Thanksgiving dinner with that? There's all these ties now that they're not disclosing. And I think that's pretty damning.
So the thing comes out. A lot of people come forward. I stand with Blake. However, nobody was coming forward when she was getting shit upon in the smear campaign.
Right.
Everybody act like they didn't know her.
Right.
That they hadn't worked with her, and they're like, what? I don't know the story. Then they're like, I stand with Blake.
Right.
Just like with Harvey Weinstein, everybody knew. The only person that said it was Courtney Love. Don't go upstairs in a hotel room with Harvey Weinstein. When that all came out, then everybody's wearing black to the Oscars and a button saying "Me Too," but they were silent the whole time. Maybe they knew not to go upstairs in the hotel room, but they were silent. So I'm like, oh, it's interesting that everybody's standing. And again, I stand with Blake Lively. Page 6 writes an article. It's a way to get something. So then he's like, F this, and he comes after her. But first, I want to talk about some of the stuff that we saw that was happening that was not flattering towards Blake Lively when it was going down. One was, I was shocked. I never read the book, and I was shocked to hear, based on the promotion of the movie and her with the flowers in the background and her dress, grab your girlfriends and your flowers and go see It Ends With Us. When I found it was about domestic violence and a woman escaping such a relationship and generational domestic violence, I was like, wow, that's weird. And then it was like, well, the feminist, wanted to promote it that way, but they're not talking and they're not taking photos together, and she's promoting it this way. Well, one of the things that came out was that she was told by the studio, we're going to promote it this way.
She signed a contract. Yeah. When she started the movie, they all did that. They have to promote it without mentioning DV. And you even see in the text with his team that they're like, oh, crap. People are realizing that no one's doing photos or press with him. Okay, well, we know that they all have to promote it this way. Let's just go off script and say that's why. That he was the one who didn't want to promote it with them. So they were maneuvering knowing that that was the contract that Blake Lively had signed.
Right. So that's okay. So that was really interesting. Also, this interview comes out that goes viral from a few years back. Blake was pregnant with one of her kids. I believe she has 4 with Ryan Reynolds. And the interview is Norwegian. And she goes, I would just want to say congratulations on your bump. And she's sitting there with Parker Posey. And she goes, well, congratulations on your bump. She's like, oh, well, I'm not pregnant. And she's this woman that put it out there, said it was the worst interviewing experience she ever had. And the two girls Parker Posey came off awful too. They both came off bitchy. Now, if you want to be defenders of them, you could say these press things are hideous and they're all day long and you're obligated to do it as part of the movie. And they were just like, being like that. But one of the things on the other side was on Blake's defense, people thought, well, did they find that woman? Did they find that video? Or did it really organically make its way to the internet because that girl was just like, you know who was a bitch to me? And put it out there. What do you think happened with that video from many years ago?
I think that the journalist is maybe acting alone. I think she's also like at the mercy of these algorithms. And I think it's interesting, like she did kind of jump. She recently tried to do something similar to Anne Hathaway. Like it's just, I think there is something like a little malicious in purposely releasing super old video clips. And like, yes, I do think that like it makes Blake Lively look bad. But I think that it was like, it was just interesting timing. That woman also put out a video that made Amber Heard not look great with hashtag justice for Johnny Depp when he was working with the TAG PR team.
Now I've read somewhere that she said, no, I did this on my own. But how would we ever know? How would we know?
And she might have done it on her own.
Right. But we won't, but we don't know. And I mentioned that there is an interview I came across of a guy who is a hairdresser for movies.
Okay.
And he has a book about his life. And he's, older now, but he worked in like movies. And I saw this interview and I listened to the whole thing. And this was before the lawsuit, but this is like a month ago. Okay. And he rips Blake Lively apart. And he says, oh, Cate Blanchett was such I worked with Cate Blanchett and she'd ask me about my daughter and it was Thanksgiving and she had me come over for Thanksgiving. And Blake Lively never asked me about my family and I did her hair and then she invited everybody over for Easter dinner and we got there. She invited the whole crew over there. Blake did. And she was so frazzled trying to make these pastries that she didn't serve us any dinner until I finally just ripped into the ham. And I'm like, this is before the lawsuit. I kind of was like, okay, maybe Cate Blanchett is kind of an exceptional person.
Yeah.
Just because she's an exceptional person to her hairdresser and includes him like family and has Thanksgiving food flown over from America for him, I just felt like in this particular interview, it's not really fair for you to come, because I'm like, with makeup artists and hair people on set, maybe certain artists don't want to talk to you because they're focusing on getting ready for it.
Right.
And for then your perception to be like, oh, you were just a bitch and you never asked about me. I was like, that's interesting. And he also said Anne Hathaway was a bitch or thereof. Yeah. Also didn't speak highly of her. Also said she was the other worst person. So those little clips of that guy, this hairdresser guy who had a book, those went viral. And that's why I found the podcast, listened to the whole thing. And I was like, should I have this guy on my show? Because I really wanted to be like, what about someone that just wants to be quiet while you do their hair? Yeah. What about someone that just, like whatever. Right. Maybe you just really clicked with some people and some people you don't. I mean, it's just kind of like, so anyway, that happened. If you're like me, you want to start eating better and healthier. And part of that is really making your own food at home. That is why I love Hungry Root. Hungry Root is like having a personal nutritionalist. They take care of the stressful meal planning each week by recommending delicious recipes tailored to your tastes, nutrition preferences, and health goals. They make it so easy to eat high-quality, nutritious food and achieve any diet or health goals by tailoring recipes to a variety of lifestyles, from anti-inflammatory to gut-friendly, gluten-free, or dairy-free. Whatever it is, planning meals and cooking really can be simple and stress-free. I love that I get this fabulous chicken that's all marinated, ready to go. All I have to do is just stick it in the oven, and then I can make my own healthy wraps with arugula and little tomatoes. All of that was such an easy recipe. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/juicyscoop and use code JuicyScoop. That's hungryroot.com/juicyscoop, code JuicyScoop, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/juicyscoop, code JuicyScoop. This episode of Juicy Scoop is sponsored by Ro. You guys, this is so great. I know it's a new year, but it's time to become the new you. So you're ready to lose an average of 15% of your weight faster? Meet the latest offering through Ro. Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss vials for half the list price of auto-injector pens, without applying insurance or saving cards, and with results that you can see faster. I know I have friends that have been dealing with this for a couple years, and they are so excited to get on this deal with Ro because it's so easy and it's at such a great price. Go to ro.co/juicyscoop to see if you qualify. That's ro.co/juicyscoop. Go to ro.co/safety for boxed warnings and full safety information about GLP-1's medication. 15% weight loss is based on a study in non-diabetics with obesity or with overweight with a weight-related condition on 5 milligrams of medication when paired with diet and exercise. Half the list price when compared to auto-injector pens and when paying cash without applying insurance or savings cards. There were other interviews that she did that she comes off odd and weird.
Yes.
This one was a great movie I've talked about, Simple Favor.
I love it.
And with Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it because I do kind of feel her character in that was very much kind of who Blake is.
Yeah.
Besides the criminal stuff in the movie, but like she just kind of like a really someone that had pretty privilege, someone that, you know, like there was something where she's like, I couldn't sing or dance, but they always put me in the front of show choir.
Yeah.
Just someone that things came very easily to. But I think she's also very fun to watch on film, and I think she's a good actress. But so she has that going where the perception could be, this is a girl that reminds me of who I hated in high school, so I hate her too. So she has a little of that going for her. But in this particular interview, it's very weird. This guy is talking to the both of them. It's very obvious. It's so obvious they don't like each other. And at one point, Blake goes, why are you asking her all the questions and not me? Like something like that. That's very odd interview. And then this one came out where she's with the other guy from It Ends With Us doing an interview. And this guy who's like on a Zoom says, this is about domestic violence. And what would you say if someone came up to you in a similar situation, being that now you've played a character like that? And she tried to be funny. And I feel like she's one of those people that's maybe married to someone kind of funny. So like she thinks she's funny. Like she just sort of misses the mark. And she goes, oh, I would say, here's my phone number. Here's my address. Let's hang out. And then the guy's like, or give your social, then he's kind of like, oh, or give your social security number. Like the whole thing was so weird. It's like, no, what you should have said was, well, I certainly wouldn't be the person to talk about it to, but I would definitely encourage them to go, report it, see a counselor, get out. Like that's what a normal person that's playing that role would say. So now we have all these moments that anyone can pick apart to make her look poorly.
Right.
So then we get into, so was it a smear campaign? Were there bots used on the part of Justin Baldoni? And so then he goes, F this, he goes and sues the New York Times who wrote about it.
Yeah.
And he felt it was in a liable way. He's suing for defamation because he felt there were things that were left out of text messages and things left out of the complaint when they wrote about it in a very biased way against him. And some of the things that he combats is, one of her complaints was that, she didn't want him in that addendum, I guess, that happened between the break of the strike.
Right.
Was, I don't want him coming in my dressing room.
Right. While I'm half naked or whatever.
While I'm half naked, whatever. And he presents a text that says, let's talk about this scene. And she goes, sure, one of my kids is sick, but I'm in my dressing room pumping, come anytime. And he's like, I'm finishing eating. She's like, takes time as much time as you want. So then in her complaint where she said he walked in when I was breastfeeding and like wouldn't leave. And he's like, here is the time that she invited me and acted like it's fine. And for many women, that would be fine. If you're pumping, you just put your shirt over and yeah, it's still intimate and weird, but maybe she felt comfortable enough to have him. So there's that. What do you think of that situation?
Yeah, well, and I do think it's so interesting, like and I read through his whole thing because I was like, okay, let's hear it. Like, let's,
If you want to summarize his whole thing, what do you think he's getting at there?
So I think that this was just him putting out a frivolous lawsuit to just get his story out there because no one's won a lawsuit against the New York Times since 1964. Like, it's just no matter what people think, like they are pretty good at reporting. Like they're not just going to make these mistakes, And so his lawsuit against New York Times, one, he says like at one point they have a big reveal of a text message from Blake that shows she gave consent once. And it was her signing off on a message with an X at the end. And his lawyer's like, well, X is the universal letter for kisses. So anytime he kissed her after that, it was consensual. She sent an X once. And I was like, are you kidding? Like,
wow.
What? Like, if you guys read it, it's like laughable. And then the pumping thing also, her claim is that they were repeatedly entering while she was breastfeeding. I've never had a kid, but I would assume pumping and breastfeeding are a little different.
They are different because you have a machine. I'll say you have a machine.
Yes.
You can certainly cover your baby's face when you're like at a restaurant while you're breastfeeding, but you got to switch the breast. It's definitely more intimate but still both are intimate and weird. Right. But maybe for someone they wouldn't care,
Yeah. And who hasn't had a coworker, guy or girl, where you're working and maybe when you first meet them, you think something's kind of normal or whatever. And then maybe you get a weird vibe after and you're like, okay, well, let me not take my lunch break at the same time as them.
Yeah.
That happens as well. And so all of his texts from her are early on in filming. There's not to say that maybe she became aware of certain behavior later that made her uncomfortable.
True. Early on in filming is interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of his also like some of his claims. So this is a lawsuit against the New York Times. And yet he's very emotionally charged in this lawsuit talking about how Ryan Reynolds berated him once and hurt his feelings. What does that have to do with the New York Times that reported on the story?
And the reason he berated him, the story that I read or whatever is it was because he found out Ryan Reynolds' husband to Blake Lively found out that he asked Blake Lively's trainer, how much does she weigh? Because there's a scene in which he picks her up and puts her on the counter to like make out with her. And he was like, well, and his defense was, I was training and I have a bad back and I needed to know, is she 125 or is she 135? Because that 10, this is me paraphrasing. Maybe that 10 pounds would make a difference to talk to my trainer and about doing it. Well, it got back to her and she felt she was being fat shamed. She obviously expressed it to Ryan, her husband. And then he, according to Justin and some other people that were supposedly there, some other celebrities, he berated him at their penthouse.
And so, like, again, this is where I think it's a catch-22 for Blake and Ryan because what I was saying in one of my videos is like, I think that the conversation could have been even more than just fat shaming if there really was some sexual harassment going on. We haven't heard Ryan's counter to that conversation yet. But if Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively had, walked with Justin Baldoni on the carpet and shook hands and were kumbaya, if these sexual misconduct allegations or fat shaming came out later, then all of Justin Baldoni's fans would be like, but why would Ryan Reynolds be friends with someone who sexually harassed his wife? I'm like, is this not further proof that like something was going down? Like, I almost think him including the fact that Ryan Reynolds had a problem with him is like, yeah, like, isn't that what like victim blamers would say? Like, wouldn't the husband like stick up for her if that was really, yeah he did. Like, and so it's a catch-22.
One of the things in his complaint that I've seen a lot about is about this beanie. So Blake has text messages where she's like, I'd like to talk more about the wardrobe of this character. And I really kind of like this sexy vibe of a beanie. And it's like they're going back and forth. And his thing is, we had a wardrobe stylist on the show that was supposed to bring you the outfits. The way it works when you're on film is you have appointments with wardrobe. And they come in and they bring in like 5 things and you take photos of it and they take a Polaroid of it and they get it approved. And they're like, now, if something looks horrible on you, you could say, oh my God, like these pants don't fit, and they find you something else. You work with the wardrobe person, you know. But it's really down to what the producer or director wants you to wear for that scene. And she was like, they're my own jeans and I want to do my own thing. And also made the wardrobe person bring all the clothes to her home versus doing it on set, which he said then cost money and time.
Right.
So does that make her difficult? I don't know. You're the star of the movie. I don't think it's that big of a deal for a wardrobe person to bring but I mean, granted, you have to pack it up, whatever. I don't think that makes her a monster.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Right. I think that like in his countersuit to the New York Times, not even to her, I think that like he's really setting the tone that she was difficult to work with in pre-filming, like you were saying with the clothing, also like post-filming, which like I do think like she probably seems like she could be difficult, but I feel like it's not like he's not negating the fact that she's saying she was sexually harassed. Like I'm like,
you can be, you have 2 things to be true at the same time.
Like,
certainly like you can be not the easiest delight.
Right. Well, and
you
they
know,
said
as
that,
Kate Blanchett might be. Like you might not, you know, there's certain people that's like Keanu Reeves, greatest guy in the world. Like no one's reputation is ever going to supersede Keanu Reeves as being the nicest actor in the world. So it's like, where are we judging it? Are there a lot of women that probably are doing movies that are like, oh my God, I've got 4 kids. Could you have the wardrobe person bring tomorrow's clothes to my house because I'm just like exhausted and can we do it here?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, that tacked on another $600 to the budget. I don't know. For this woman's time or whatever. Like,
and I think too, like even the clips you were showing here, I actually think that I made a video about this when the movie came out. And I had a theory that I actually think would align with all of this. I said that when the promo was coming out where she was kind of downplaying the DV, and this is like where I do think that like she came off awful in the press, but I almost think that when everyone thinks her and Justin are fighting over the movie rights for the sequel or whatever. I stand in my theory that I almost think when Blake.
Oh, so wait, they think they're fighting over because there's a sequel? Think there's a sequel and they think whoever prevails, then the other one would be replaced?
Right.
Because they obviously can't work together.
They want the rights.
I'm
like,
okay, I didn't know that part. Yeah.
Right. And so what I actually think is happening, I think that Blake didn't actually read the book or know much about the movie when she signed on, because Colleen Hoover, when it came out that this movie was coming out, yes, she specifically asked for Blake Lively. And so then Blake Lively signs on. And then as she's talking about the book and the character, like I almost think that she wasn't actually that. Like, and this is where I'm critical of Blake. I think she comes off awful in these interviews because obviously at this point she's filmed the movie and she's aware. I don't think she actually knew much about the depth of this story when she started. And it would make sense. And like her being demanding, if Colleen Hoover was adamant about having Blake Lively and wrote the book thinking of Blake Lively, like Blake Lively's probably like, yeah, you have to bend at my whim if I'm going to do this. Like I honestly think that like she didn't know. And now it's kind of blown up in both of their faces. And also just one thing I want to add too, with the 2 clips you showed as well, something that's interesting. This is where my like marketing brain kicks in. If you look at the profiles of the people posting these videos, they're not real people. They're meme accounts. The one before was like a photo. So if you go to the other one, a meme account. So this one, not a real person. It doesn't seem there. At least it's not. And then the one before this is it seems like a meme account. And so I think that there's potentially a team pulling clips like this and resurfacing them. So I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. So this girl I found, and she has a good following. Her name's Bohemian Diva. So she brought up this thing where in Deadpool, which Ryan Reynolds is a star of, and of course that's a huge movie. And also they're both represented by William Morris.
You're right.
William Morris, WME.
Yes.
And after the lawsuit that Blake brought, Justin was dropped.
Right.
And in his countersuit, he said that is because of the power that Blake and Ryan Reynolds have. William Morris came back and said, that's not true. But I will say, is being someone in Hollywood, I have on more than a few occasions witnessed when two people are both represented by the same agency and one is much more powerful than the other, and they have a falling out, or the writer gets fired from the TV show and the TV person is the star.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after, they say, hey, sorry, this isn't a call I like to give you, but we just don't think we can do the job that you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And they let them go. I don't know that there is ever this person saying to the agent, fire that person that's no longer in my life, or if the agent takes it upon themselves to do it so they please the bigger star.
Mm-hmm.
And also because now this person doesn't have the regular gig with the bigger star, and they would actually have to work for them. And agents are lazy, like a lot of people are lazy. Yeah. And so it's like, with this particular thing, I believe, they let him go because he had massive stink on him,
mm-hmm.
and because they're much bigger star, which is the Deadpool thing that is just like one of the biggest movies in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, whether they asked him or not, they probably were like, we got to get rid of Justin. We're going to stick with our bigger person and please him. So that is my personal opinion. So in the movie, which I've never seen the Deadpool movies.
Okay, I have.
And there is one scene where he's like talking to the camera, and it was something about, the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people thought Ryan Reynolds, who was in a movie called The Proposal with Sandra Bullock. And it was a dumb, what I like to call dry bar movies, which they play them when you get your hair blown out, okay? From like mid-2000s. Yeah. And so when he did that, I think most people that got it thought he was mocking himself about a bad movie, The Proposal. But this was filmed, according to this girl, what I gathered, during the time that she, none of these problems had happened, or the loss, or maybe they'd done filming. I'm not really sure of the timeline. But this girl seems to think, was he mocking Justin Baldoni's proposal video? Now, I heard about Justin's proposal. So Justin is married. Justin Baldoni made a proposal video and for his wife. I had heard about this. I couldn't find it. Just before you came, God bless this woman. Women Do Matter is this site. And this girl has the video. And it's 30 minutes long. And I got to see 3 minutes of it. And it really does say everything you need to know about Justin Baldoni. It is so crazy. Now, again, the defense might be, he is a director, he is an actor, he has all this stuff to do it, and he thought it'd be funny, and he just wanted to do it because there was a writer's strike too, and he had time to do it. It's very elaborate. It starts out where he's like in a boy band, and he's singing. It's so cheesy, but it's almost so cheesy that maybe he thought his wife would think it was funny. You know what I mean?
Like he was still in on the joke. It
seemed
a little bit.
It's so lame that I do think it was a joke in his defense. And so then, it's several different scenes. It's almost like there's dancing at a mall. Then he's in drag with other guys, but like bad drag, like being funny. And has to sit there at the restaurant and watch it for 30 minutes before she gets her ring. Okay. So people were like, what kind of monster, does this? And again, yes, it's pretty lame, but it wasn't for, I guess he did put it out on YouTube thinking it was great. Most people that film their engagements put it out on some platform, whether you're famous or not. But now in retrospect, people are like, how could you even marry her? It was not about her. It should have been videos compiled of like how wonderful she is throughout her life and why he's choosing her. Yes, but also, I don't know. Everyone can, it's always that expression, a lot of housewives say it when someone is, crying to a housewife about their dog dying. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I know my dog died last year. It's not about you, Kelly. And it's like, there is something like, God forbid you make it about yourself. Like everything, it's like, well, how do you give a eulogy about someone who died if you don't mention the time you spent with this person? And if someone is out to be like, it's always about you, they're going to say, oh, Heather made that eulogy about herself. Like, so I'm like, this is silly and dumb and cheesy.
Yeah, I agree. I will defend him with this.
Yeah.
I think, well, when I watched the proposal video, what I could get through immediately, I was like, this is something Tom Sandoval would do.
Yes.
But like, I think that at the time he did it, it was maybe 10 years ago. That was when like it was the BuzzFeed era of YouTube, like flash mobs. Like this was kind of the
flash
thing.
mob. Oh, it's 10
Right,
years. So,
the
okay, I didn't
flash
realize it was
mobs.
10 years ago. Yeah.
So like, I think it wasn't cringe at the time necessarily. I think it was kind of what people did.
Yeah.
And so I will defend him in that. And I'll also say some of the people resurfacing this cringe proposal video, like again, it's accounts that aren't necessarily, they're faceless accounts. They're like meme accounts that are surfacing,
this
right?
Girl's face
Or
did
she
show up, but
okay.
maybe they picked it up. I don't know. But
Maybe
there
they're
was a girl,
reposting a TikTok.
there was
yeah.
a girl discussing it. And I have to say, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God. But now in like really talking about all this stuff with you, finding out this was 10 years ago.
Like, I don't think it's that bad. I think he's a theater kid that like, that's kind of what they do. I think that's okay. And I don't think that that's incriminating. I think him saying he could speak to her dead dad, like to me, that's like crazy.
That's weird. I think
that's just him being cringe.
I think he is a fake feminist. I think there's a lot of really annoying things about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add one thing about the feminist thing, like, because he had the TED Talk that went viral about the Me Too movement, and that was when he then launched a feminist podcast. What I will say is something so interesting. It's one Google search away. The lawyer that he just hired to countersue the New York Times, this lawyer, again, not an admission of guilt, not an admission of innocence. This lawyer settled his own essay claim when he was in college. A minor said that she was essayed. And
by the lawyer that's now defending Justin.
The lawyer and his frat bros to this girl.
Okay. And
they settled. And paid the girl out. Again, it's not an admission of guilt or liability,
right?
But he did pay this girl out. And the LA Times asked the lawyer about it, and he said, it does help me see both sides. I defend, both types of people. So I just think it is interesting to add, like, was there no other like lawyers near me on Yelp available that day? Like, if he's such a feminist, would he not want a team that represents those values? Or was that always just a cash grab? I don't know. It's not hard to find that info about his lawyer.
Yeah.
His lawyer is very famous. Like anyone can find that info. So I just wanted to add that.
So I think we really kind of covered it all. I don't know if there's anything else that we didn't cover. Now, apparently, is someone coming with another lawsuit? Because he didn't sue her. She is suing him and the PR team.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how much?
I don't know that there's a disclosed amount.
So then he is suing New York Times for covering the lawsuit.
$250
million. And now I heard there's another lawsuit that's going to drop. And is that going to be her again? Is that going to be him against her personally still? Or what's the next one?
So his team has been saying that they're going to drop a lawsuit. I like saying they have concepts of a lawsuit.
Of another lawsuit. Okay.
Maybe. His lawyer's referring to it as receipts, which like to me, that's them just pandering to an online audience. They're not actually pandering to a judge.
Right.
But there is a third lawsuit that is happening as well. So there was Blake Lively dropped hers, and then there was a publicist named Stephanie Jones who then dropped a lawsuit as well against Justin Baldoni.
And what's she saying?
She's the one that owned the PR company that one of the employees worked at, who kind of went rogue on this alleged smear campaign. So she was the one that got fired. So the publicist fired that girl. That's where.
But why is she suing Justin? Because
so he broke his contract allegedly. So he was supposed to be contracted with Jones Work PR until May of this year.
Oh, so she's just suing him because like he owes her still like $50,000 or something.
But her lawsuit is actually really fascinating because in it she is talking about how Wayfair, his production company, and this employee of hers kind of went rogue. But what she's alleging and her email and receipts that she has are fascinating because in it, and Blake's kind of alleges this as well, is that the PR team, the third contracted PR team that he outsourced when he got worried that it was going to come out, what Steph Jones is alleging in her lawsuit is that there's kind of this paper trail of this is so like it could be a reality show or like Scandal. So he's talking to the employee at Jones Work and he's saying, I don't know that we need the extra, eyes on this. I think we're okay. The outside firm was going to charge $25,000 a month. And then what Steph Jones is alleging is that then her employee and this outside contractor at Tag PR, they were then feeding bad stories about Justin Baldoni to the media. So they were feeding these negative stories that were just cracking the surface of what might be happening. And then he then sees these stories start to come out. He thinks that maybe Blake Lively's the leak. And he then goes, okay, let's hire this outside contractor. And so her lawsuit more goes into that side of the PR thing of that. She's alleging that and then in the paperwork, you can see where they were then setting it up so that the boss, Steph Jones, would be the fall guy. So if and I do think Justin Baldoni in some ways has been victimized. I don't think he knew the extent of the PR thing. I think he just maybe hired some people that were acting on his behalf. I think he's seems naive to the PR side. So the PR firm is in their emails, even the Sony president exec in one of the emails, he sniffed it out from a mile away. So this rogue employee, he emails her and he goes, Jennifer, stop putting these stories out. We can't mess with the movie. And it's so crazy that he knew who it was immediately. But then the girl was like, no, it's my boss doing it. It's not me kind of thing. Allegedly, read it, whatever. But the Steph Jones is the third lawsuit you might be thinking of. He's gearing up for another one. But I actually think the Steph Jones lawsuit is overlooked, but it has the most receipts out of all of them in terms of the actual smear campaign that's being alleged. Because she's the one that confiscated the phone in the work laptop. So she had all of the emails and texts.
When she got rid of the girl.
When she fired the girl, she had to turn over her thing that day.
Okay, so in conclusion, what do you think, a couple things too that I just to add to it that I don't want to forget. Ryan Reynolds was married to Scarlett Johansson. And there is talk that there was some overlay between Blake Lively becoming his girlfriend then wife. Okay, so that also doesn't help her reputation or his for that matter. And there's also predictions I've seen. I predict this is not mine, he'll file for divorce by March. I don't know. I don't want that. They have 4 kids. I think, I do think these type of things are bad to even venture. I think if she was really feeling the pain of the smear campaign and all of it, which I can relate to, and wanting to clear your name and wanting to defend yourself, if she was my best friend, I would have been like, you need to get another fucking movie and kill it. Yeah. You need to do such a great thing. And when you get on that set, you are going to be the biggest Keanu Reeves, Cate Blanchett delight that ever lived. Like, the food is going to be the best on your set. You are going to look everyone in the eye and you are going to do a great job as an actress and you're going to look stunning. And you're going to let this sit for a minute and you're going to come out and no one's going to remember it. That, I think, would have been better, because now she's got to fight the text receipts, which are questionable on his side in defense of him, and how things can be interpreted. And I understand why he went full force, because he's like, I'm done. Once the agent dropped him, the agent wasn't like, listen, you can defend this. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to find you another movie, dude, because you are great. No, the agent was like, bye, weirdo. And I've also had that happen where people have dumped me because I had stink on me. Hollywood stink is what I like to call it. And you can come back. He did not rape someone. He did not kill someone. He wasn't a child molester. You can come back from some questionable, weird behavior. That's really all it was. So it's like, but now this whole thing, they don't go to the Golden Globes, Blake Lively and Ryan, which I could understand why. And now they're in this awful thing. At this point, I would, if I was either one of them, I would be like, how do we end this and make it go away? And each take a 3 months break, have a truce. But that's a lot easier said than done, because you're so heated now and you have so many people involved and you feel like both sides feel like they have been portrayed so wrongly. And, she probably would have never said anything about the issue she had with them on set had this whole thing that I definitely think was a smear campaign. I definitely think whether it was him, the PR firm or whatever, whoever took it upon themselves, the guy in Austin, 100%, it was to make her look bad. And then when she was like, screw this, I can't get work. She's up at night TikToking, reading about what an asshole she is. She's like, fuck this. I was sexually harassed. Like this guy's, So then she went for it. And now he's like, oh my God, I'm not going to just go away and be a farmer in Omaha. Like I worked too hard. Look at how talented I am in this proposal video. So that's what I think is, I think this will somehow find some resolve in the next month. I do not think it'll go to trial. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I like my concluding thoughts are very similar to yours. And what I was telling my audience too in my episode that just came out, I was like, I hope that I'm wrong. Like best case scenario is like I'm riding for Blake Lively, and best case scenario is like nothing nefarious happened on set. And then this has all just been like a PR disaster, because you never want someone to be harassed or feel unsafe or to be a victim. Like I hope that I'm wrong. And like I do think that like he just seems a little like maybe unaware. Like I do think he seems, yeah. And so I hope that I'm wrong. And I will say that like, you know, I report on like more of the marketing and the PR side, but I do think that as I am reporting on that, like so many people are chalking it up to just, you know, it's, you know, bad publicity, whatever. But I'm like, I think that like people still have to keep the tone that there is something potentially unsafe. Like, I just feel like so many people are reporting on it like tea.
One thing we never talked about was the intimacy coordinator, which there's someone whose real job is to choreograph a sex scene.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and there have been stories where someone's doing an intimate sex scene and it's not a porn and they actually have said they were penetrated, you know, like things like that. And so you do this and you make sure you're okay with it. And you kind of know your routine of like, I'm going to make out with you and then I'm going to turn you around and you know it. And he said, I have the coordinator and he has the text to prove it. And she's like, that's great. He's like, do you want to meet with her now or whatever? And she said, no, I'll just meet with her before we shoot. So then with her complaining that the kissing lasted too long and he wanted to do it, was his going back is, you had the opportunity to have a bigger say in this and you chose not to.
Right.
So professionally, I have the proof that you didn't make this a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So whether he overstepped or not, to the public opinion, it's like you didn't go to rehearsal. You didn't do your homework. You didn't read the book, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah.
I think you're so right. I think he was very well-intended, it seems, in so many moments. If I were her friend or publicist, whatever, my advice to her would be, you know, Kylie Kelsey, Jason Kelsey's wife, the guy who's the...
Yeah.
Okay, so his wife just
the Kelsey
launched
brothers.
her. Yes. And like it's breaking news that she's now outperforming Joe Rogan, whatever.
Well, let's see if that lasts.
We'll see. Yes.
We know when a new one comes, everyone subscribes and it pops. But yeah.
Right. And so if I was Blake Lively's team, I would be like, okay, if the lawsuits get dropped, you know, take a little bit of a breather, and then I would send her on the Kylie Kelsey podcast because they're friends.
Oh, they are friends? Really?
Yes.
Okay.
They know each other from Blake Lively. And Jason Kelsey's talked good things about
Blake Lively knows
the Kelseys. Yeah.
Okay.
Through Taylor, you know. And so
Blake Lively and Taylor are friends.
Right. They're like best friends. That's why I'm like, I think she's going to navigate this well, because if she has Tree Payne, like Taylor Swift's publicist, I'm not even a Swiftie. I just think she like knows media more than anyone.
Okay. So
she's in good hands.
So you say go on her podcast.
Go on Kylie Kelsey's new podcast. It's the biggest thing right now. And I think if I was Blake Lively's team, I'd say, look, all of these TikTok
You wouldn't tell her to come on Juicy Scoop?
And I would say, and you know what? Juicy Scoop.
Go on Juicy Scoop.
I
defended you, Blake.
Exactly.
I've defended her many times in this episode. Yes.
And right after Juicy Scoop, she's going to go on Kylie Kelsey's pod. And I would say, what I think is happening is she's not going to reach the TikTok T pages. You know, I think she's kind of lost some of that audience that's chronically online. That's okay. Kylie Kelsey's audience is like suburban millennial moms. Just lock in there. Like you were saying, like do a movie that's really good. Like what's like a movie that, you know, suburban moms are going to watch? Do that. Do it well. And like, don't worry about the TikTok Gen Z tea pages. Like,
Right. And
you've
also
lost
those
them.
people that are writing videos that they say they hate you in a year when your movie comes out, and if it's good, they're not going to remember that they launched to hate
They're like
you.
begging to go to the premiere, you know, like,
Yeah.
So I will end it with,
Well, I will say this
see.
too. Another one of the complaints is that they got married on an old plantation.
not good. No, that's not
How could you
good.
not know it? What did you not know? Well, there has been things like that. People have made mistakes like that.
Yes.
They've gone to the Annabella frat. What is it called?
Antebellum South. She had like a website.
Yeah, Antebellum South
I agree.
frat parties, and that happened to a girl that was on The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what's his name? The guy that Chris Harrison,
Yeah.
who defended this young girl for going to this frat party when she was 18, got him fired from a job that he had for 15 years as the host of The Bachelor. So it's like, there are things like that I get. It doesn't look good and everything, but people forget.
They do. Well, and
People forget, and you're only as good as your last performance is what we would say in the actor world. Or in this case, you know, your latest movie, your latest podcast, whatever. You just got to keep going. And most likely, especially now with the cancel culture, I feel is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, providing the crime. And I really think that you can come back from it. You know, both of them, I think, can come back from this. But it was like fascinating and juicy because it did involve a whole new smear media PR thing that we know has existed for like at least the last like 5 or 8 years. But this was like some solid proof that this happens. People have the ability to do this. They infiltrate Reddits with fake people. They have multiple accounts. All of it. It's true.
And on both sides, it seems
and
like
it's
it
very
was done.
but it's also very hard to prove.
So hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like, yeah, they have a fake account. Like, doesn't mean they're doctoring these interview clips that she looks really bad in. Like, I think that's their defense is like, we're just pulling up the clips. Like, so there is, you know.
No, I mean, she has a certain kind of personality way about her of communication that is inherently perceived as kind of bitchy.
Right.
Is that completely unprofessional? Is that the worst person in the world to work with? Is that a little entitled? Is that a little privileged? Is that pretty privileged? Is that someone whose career came very, very easy to them? Yes. This is not someone that, you know, struggled and had no connections and all of that. No.
Right.
So she, you know, is best at playing the roles. They said, oh, because she got her start as Gossip Girl. So they're like, she is that Richie bitch Gossip Girl. Yeah, she is the girl, in my opinion, the Simple Favor girl.
Right.
You know? But I also really liked her when she was in The Town with Ben Affleck. And that was a totally different character. And I thought she was really good. So I think she's a good actress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was amazing. And I really appreciate you coming and giving your expertise on this because there was so much to cover. And I'm sure people will be able to add more to it. Let's see if we're right about what will happen, which is this will go away and never see a courthouse, or a trial. But tell everybody how they can follow you and everything.
Yeah. I mean, if you liked these discussions, honestly, my podcast, Ahead of the Curve, like this is exactly what I dive into. Like, I just love the analytics, the algorithms and all that. So Ahead of the Curve. And then the Substack is where it's like the more extended episodes if you like to hear me talk even longer. But yeah, thank you.
Well, you were great. And I'm so glad that you could come on Juicy Scoop.
I'm such a fan. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad that you are. Thanks.